You make fun of people who use the word woke, and you never use the word, even though it completely describes what's going on right now in gay games.
So the thing about...
As soon as it's revealed that the protagonist is a woman, DEI, 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 DEI. And if I search for Brie Larson, how many videos are going to pop up? Oh my God, there's a pinwheel. It just keeps going. Star Wars Acolyte, Star Wars Acolyte, Star Wars Acolyte, Star Wars Acolyte, Star Wars Acolytes. And the second he sees a black character, he goes, oh, diversity.
There's very clearly like a logical reason for why people think this way.
Friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, hit like, comment, subscribe. It really helps us out, and I appreciate everybody who does that. Asmongold made a video about woke. Let's hear about Asmongold's take on wokeness.
Watch the whole Act Man AndyPants. Most is inconsequential,
but this part is very relevant.
I never have watched this. I have no idea what even happened here.
Told you, I think it's incredibly strange to talk about Concord and not. Told you, I think it's.
This guy, AndyPants, is just one of the most silly channels that I've ever seen. Concord is DEI propaganda. Concord is gay DEI propaganda. He made a video about other content creators called woke YouTubers, and it's just like, I don't know if you guys have seen some of these videos, but
it's the billionaires. It's the billionaires.
Why aren't these content creators talking about DEI and wokeness and blah, 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 blah? To my understanding, this guy was just doing kind of regular videos down here. So he started doing an analysis of Ghost Recon. 10,000 views. Did a video on Mafia 3. What went wrong with Mafia 3? 75,000, not bad. Where did Gears of War go wrong? 136,000. And then he kind of starts dabbling in anti-woke stuff. When did games become so soft? Does a video on the genius of Fallout, why open world games are broken, what's so good about immersive sims, and more just kind of general gaming stuff. And then he does this one video here. What makes something woke? And he gets 222,000 views. Just immediately just gets way more views on average than what he was getting here. And then what does he do? It's just nothing but anti-woke stuff after this. Like he figures out, okay, the algorithm really liked it when I did a video on anti-woke stuff. And then he changed his whole channel into anti-woke stuff. The pussification of video games. Are gamers homophobic? This thumbnail literally says gay. Like what is the purpose of this video, I wonder?
No, yep, there it is. Evil white people. Finally, you see a white person and surprise, they're evil. This is what a 40-year-old millennial, as I've said, thinks that a 20-year-old is into. What's going on, boys? We are living in the woke apocalypse now. This is the darkest timeline. Some people sent me this game and told me that they wanted to see my reaction to it, so that's what I'm doing. I'm also going to cover some...
This has 500,000 views. This is just a perfect example of audience capture. Just a perfect example. Maybe rather it's just a perfect example of like opportunism, Like this guy tested the water with anti-woke stuff and then it did well. And then they just fully commit to like anti-woke stuff. And it's just the most boring content. It's just the most boring content. He's just not saying anything new. There's nothing original. There's nothing new. There's nothing unique about these videos. There are thousands of these exact kind of videos that go up every day.
Funny memes from the Discord, from the AndyPants Discord channel, where I have to interact with these creatures. Like, of course, you have gay guy, lesbian chick, he, she, it, ugly person that nobody on earth, male or female, would want to have sex with, and then a robot. Like these people are depraved.
This guy's a Christian, by the way. Self-described Christian, by the way. Anyways, that's what he's talking about with AndyPants.
It's incredibly strange to talk about Concord and not mention the clear woke slop. And you make fun of people who use the word woke, and you never use the word, even though it completely describes what's going on right now in gay games.
So the thing about
in gay games,
the word woke is it harkens back to that old story.
And of course, like this taps into like the conversation that I was having with Sitch and Adam a couple days ago, where it just feels like the term for 99% of people online, woke literally equals black, woman, disabled, queer. And it really doesn't go much further than that. Like in Asmongold's own video where he's reacting to the Ghost of Tsushima trailer, as soon as it's revealed that the protagonist is a woman, you can see in his chat just DEI, 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 just spamming DEI. Like, you know nothing about the story, you know nothing about this protagonist, and at that point it essentially proves the point where it's just In that moment, it was literally just woke equals woman. That's all it was. And then there was that one guy that came out with a video where, yeah, they were reacting to the Fallout show on Amazon, the trailer, and every time that video, who's got a link to that video? That video is crazy. Every time a minority showed up in the trailer, the guy who was reacting to the trailer just shouted diversity. I mean, at that point, it's just blatant, just like really blatant. Bro, I don't know. Does this guy not have friends to tell him, like, look, the way you're lighting your shot makes it look like you don't have eyebrows? No one is having the conversation with this guy. I feel like I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Every video I see of this guy, it's like, where are your eyebrows? And then, of course, the Fallout show ended up being way better than probably any of us thought. The Fallout show was actually straight up like 9 out of 10, maybe 10 out of 10. It was, dude, it was so good.
You should not be alone.
Holy the diversity.
Why did you join the Brotherhood?
Bro, the second he sees a black guy, we are a full minute into the trailer. Everybody else is white. And the second he sees a black character, he goes, oh, diversity. And then he just keeps saying it. Watch.
Oh my God, diversity.
People are going to come after you.
Even his co-host is like, geez.
Look out at this wasteland.
Diversity.
But there's always somebody.
Dude, he just yells diversity every time he sees a minority character. God, it must be exhausting to be this way in real life.
They just disagree on how.
This is no thanks.
Bro, this is insane. I mean, it's just really just like undeniable, just blatant racism. That's all it is. There's no other way to explain reactions like that. Just unhinged reactions like that. Laughing and smirking and joking and shouting diversity every time you see a character that isn't white. I don't know what else I'm supposed to, like, what else am I supposed to infer from that?
I'm done. I'm out.
There you are.
No thanks. No thanks. No.
Yeah, it's like
And then it ended up being amazing. And then the show ended up being amazing.
These days, it's the boy who cried woke. There is so much disingenuous criticism using the word woke. The word is so liberally applied to everything.
This is why we banned it on the subreddit, by the way, for a while. Is because people use the word woke the same as they use the word like racist or like a few other things. Where it's like, this is like basically it's like a filler word because I don't know how to define what the problem is. So I'm just going to use like this bucket word that somehow is going to apply.
When I was having the conversation with Sitch and Adam, like I kept on pressing them to like give me examples of it. I found that conversation with them a little bit frustrating because it was like, they both acknowledge that there's nothing wrong with setting diversity as a goal for whatever art you're putting out there in whatever medium, video games, TV, movies. If the creatives in charge of whatever these properties are intentionally set diversity as a goal, not just having a homogenized sort of artistic experience, having like a diversity of backgrounds and whatnot. They both said that there was nothing inherently wrong with that, but then they were cautioning against what they called tokenism. And then I asked them to sort of like explain, well, what can you give me an example of like a token character or whatever? It just feels like for a lot of characters that are like, especially if you're gay or doubly, especially if you're trans, the inclusion of these characters need to be justified in some way. So what you'll oftentimes hear when it comes to trans characters in video games is, well, you shouldn't put the character in there unless there's a good reason. And it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, it needs to service the story in some tangible way. And you're like, wait, but why? Like, would you apply the same standard to like straight people? And so if there's a throwaway character and that throwaway character is not essential to the story, it's just a side character. It's just kind of there for aesthetics or whatever. And then that character has like a heterosexual relationship, like a man and his wife, like two throwaway characters that show up and they don't add anything to the story, but they're just there in the backdrop. And you would never question if a straight couple in the background of like a cyberpunk vista You know, you're at a basketball court in Cyberpunk 2077 and you see, you know, a straight couple. You never like question that. But if you see a gay couple, what these, I don't know about Asmongold, but what a lot of people say online typically is like, well, it needs to add to the story some way. And I'm like the gayness needs to be justified in some way. And I'm saying it doesn't need to be. They can just exist in the world. They don't need to justify anything. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
DEI is the new woke. Yeah, DEI is, yeah, exactly.
Thing, because there's so many
two races in video games. There's white and woke.
True.
Online grifters who
He's not
produce
lying about
daily
this.
outrage content that are saying this thing is woke, this thing is woke, you should be angry, you should be upset. Tune in tomorrow for episode 4169 on why Star Wars is woke now and why you should hate it and be mad and angry and upset.
Yeah.
There's so much of that going on that the ending of the story of The Boy Who Cried Wolf is that
It's like a whole industry now. You know, you have like Nerdrotic and Critical Drinker. They have just, like, if I look up Nerdrotic and if I search for Brie Larson, how many videos are going to pop up? It's a lot. It just keeps going. It's a lot. Oh my God, there's a pinwheel. It just keeps going. Jesus, I thought I was memeing a little bit, but oh my God. Bro, seriously, how many videos? It keeps going. Anyways, there's a whole industry of this stuff, of this content. Star Wars Acolyte, 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 Furiosa, Rings of Power, MCU is woke, Hollywood is woke, Disney is woke, Rebel Moon sucks. I mean, I agree with them there. Like the industry of anti-woke content on YouTube, it is so pervasive now.
at the end there was a wolf out there, but because there were so many false claims of there being a wolf, the people didn't help him. So that's what's happened with the word woke. When I hear somebody,
I think that Actman's bringing up a really good point here, and I think the best example of that point is that a lot of people have labeled games like Space Marine 2 as woke because it has I guess like a female commander in it, and
So he's talking about the term woke
there's
being,
me right there, and then
being too ubiquitous. But if I go to Asmongold's channel and if I search woke, what am I going to find? Google gave up on being woke. Woke VTuber brains explode over Trump surviving. YouTube movie critics versus woke Disney. Woke Disney is failing. My full response to the woke translator attacking me. Why woke characters suck. The woke consulting firm that ruined all these games. Wokeness in video games. Blizzard exec reveals the real reason bad games go woke. Woke translators are out of control. Woke localizers ruin. Jesus Christ.
I feel like that's not really what's
It's like that meme. Everyone's trying to figure out who did this, and it's the one guy wearing like the hot dog outfit.
happening. And a lot of people, well, sorry, that's actually not true. A lot of people is inaccurate. You're correct in correcting me on that. There is like a list of like what games are woke and what games are not woke. And I think Elden Ring.
Where is that list again? Hold on. Games woke or not woke. There's a whole website about it. Is it a Steam curated list? But I'm pretty sure there's a website dedicated to it. Or is it a Google spreadsheet? I have not seen it yet. Rating not recommended. So let's go to Starfield. Not recommended. Contains overtly pro LGBTQ plus and overtly pro DEI messages. Hold on, Starfield? So I think what they mean when they say overtly pro LGBTQ plus is that there are LGBTQ plus characters. I think that's all that means. Uses body type 1 and 2 instead of male female. Baldur's Gate 3 is woke. Non-binary other option available for identity in character creation menu screen. Shovel Knights is woke. Contains overtly pro LGBTQ plus messaging. Hogwarts Legacy contains overtly pro LGBTQ plus messaging, contains overtly pro DEI messaging. 1800 Scotland somehow has diverse LGBTQ plus characters. Never mind the sorcery and the witchcraft and the, flying brooms. Hogwarts Legacy is legit a great game. I feel like it's definitely not perfect. I would give it a 9. I think there were more opportunities to do. I feel like the side content was a little lacking, but again, like Red Dead 2 just ruined everything for me. Like Red Dead 2 and like Cyberpunk have just ruined big open world games because they're just so detailed. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 is woke. It contains overtly pro LGBTQ plus images. multiple pride flag. Red Dead Redemption 2 is like kind of woke. Contains subtly pro-DEI messaging. Several minor characters espouse modern-day political sentiments. As an example, the NPC Sadie Adler behaves the same way a modern-day feminist would. Oh my god. What is this? What is not woke? Borderlands Enhanced, Metro 2033, Civ 5, Team Fortress 2, The Witcher 2, Sekiro is not woke. Left 4 Dead 2. Portal is not woke. There's got to be some woke stuff in Portal, right?
Ring and Space Marine 2 were put on that list. So when you paint with such a broad brush that almost anything could be, if you interpret it in this way, could be perceived as woke, you end up devaluing the word. No, I'm being serious, right? Baldur's Gate 3 too. Well, I could see Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 makes a lot more sense that it's woke because you can engage in homosexual relationships. You can, I think they have pronouns in the game. You can change a character's genitalia.
It's an RPG. It's like a super detailed, fleshed out RPG. There was a developer that opined on this issue, I believe over the weekend, and what they discovered was that a lot of players, like a lot of RPG players, spend like an hour in character creation. I think it was a Critical Drinker post where he was like, isn't the character creation thing a bit narcissistic? Like, why are we taking it to that extreme in video games? And a developer was like, dude, a lot of people spend like an hour creating their character. It makes perfect sense for an RPG to have really detailed options for how far you can customize. There's no good argument against it.
With like not having them have a different body. I feel like Baldur's Gate 3, like you could make an argument that like, yeah, sure, this is a woke type thing, right? It's just that people don't care because it seems.
So even by Asmongold's own definition, it's literally just like trans equals woke, woman equals woke, black equals woke, whatever. It seems like that's what his understanding of woke is.
Seems like it's an authentic product. And so I think that what happened is that people are trying to like identify every instance of something being woke. But I think that if you retroactively apply this to a lot of other games, you would see other games in the past that have also had this issue as well, right? So like, for example, with like Space Marine 2, you could also say like Gears of War, right? Would also be woke because of Coltrane and Dom, right? That seems like kind of a bad argument, a bad way to look at it. So the problem is that I think that people have started using the term woke for too many different things, or Halo, right? Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, wow, Master Chief has a woman that knows everything, that tells him what to do. And, Sergeant Johnson's like this black guy and like, he tells everybody else what to do, right? If you want to look at everything through that lens, it's like if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And I do think Actman's bringing up a good point that if everything is woke, then nothing is. And I think that the problem is that Concord, which is like, in my opinion, definitely a woke game, like 100%, is that if you don't figure out a way to like grade this or to have any sort of like measured criticism.
Why was Concord woke again? Why was it woke? If it's literally just because there are diverse characters, then he is playing into the same trope that he seems to be railing against. If it's literally just there's like a super diverse cast of characters and there's not a lot of white people, then his own definition of woke seems to be quite broad.
You can't say Concord is as woke as Space Marine 2, right? So that's a huge issue. And I think it's making it hard for people that are like against this kind of stuff to be taken seriously because they're doing things that are unserious. If you accept everything, you stand for nothing. Well, yeah, but like this is like the opposite. Like if you don't stand for anything, then all you're doing is laying down, you're doing nothing. So it's like you have to be measured in your criticism and your feedback.
It's what happened to the words racist and sexist a few years ago.
He's right.
People were saying like air conditioning sexist and
right,
all this stupid
Which, by
shit.
the way, that was a real title. That was a legitimate thing. Women were saying that air conditioning was sexist.
It is racist and sexist, and it destroyed the meaning that those words are supposed to have.
He's right.
The boy who cried racist.
Nazi is the worst one. I think Nazi and slavery are two of the worst ones that are used now.
Slavery? Wait, what?
Because people use, like, for example, I'm working at a job that doesn't treat me well as slavery. And, like, they don't, like, it's just, I think it downplays, like, we have.
Or, like, calling people wage slaves, I suppose.
Real slavery, right? Like, now we have real slavery. It's not in the US. Like, and by the way, if you are trying, like, if there's, like, 3 smart Redditors in chat that are like, oh, what about prisons? nothing like slavery, nothing like actual slavery. If you think that, you're read a book. Anyway, just look it up.
I kind of agree with him here. It's the 13th, the movie about the 13th Amendment. It f***ed up the discourse about this stuff because people are comparing like prison labor to chattel slavery as if they're even remotely close. Like you can have an issue with prison labor without making insane equivocations between that and chattel slavery. Like I agree with him on that.
On Wikipedia, it'll take you 5 seconds to learn that you're stupid. So if you compare that to like what's happening in like, you know, Africa, etc., that is actual slavery in some cases, right? It is really bad. And so people that compare those two things, I think, are being like very, very disingenuous, and they're like hijacking the emotional baggage of a word to make their own argument or their own feelings more important. And I think Nazi is the same thing. Like the amount of times that I hear people being called Nazis because they don't want open borders or they're like Donald Trump fans is way too much.
The boy who cried sexist, the boy who cried woke. These are 3 books.
13th Amendment says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. I don't know. Conceptually, do I have a problem with like prison labor? As long as it's not a full-on labor camp. But I feel like compelling a prisoner to do some form of labor, I feel like is probably an appropriate form of punishment, right?
Books in a volume. Okay,
he's right.
That all have the same ending.
Dude, so it's I mean, you're a video game critic and you do video game analysis. So I find it shocking that you don't.
Well, yeah, when we get into like for-profit prisons, and as long and now you're introducing this financial incentive, then I totally agree that we're getting a little. Now I agree with that.
See the pattern in a game like Concord having,
but like, you know, giving people that are in prison, you know, chores, I think is like reasonable, right? I don't know. Maybe I need to shut the up about this issue.
3 black females in it and not a single white man.
Oh, it did have a white guy in it, but I think the problem is that a lot of the people that have discussions about this topic, like they've already made up their mind about it, and they're looking at it from a one-dimensional perspective. And I think that's what happens with people that are like super anti and super pro this type of like inclusion, because they're not really looking at it. Both of these extremes trend to the perspective of I am basing my opinion on things off of something that is not happening, basically, right? Exactly what happened to just make a good game. People are too emotional. Yeah, well, it's also that people are not really willing to like concede any ground. And I think if you're not really willing to see like the sense of like what other people are saying, then I think that you can't be reasoned with, right? You can't have people understand what your perspective is. So yeah, what if everything really is woke? I feel like then at that point, then the term doesn't mean anything. Because like, it's kind of like, remember what I was saying before about how I don't like how people call things scams? Like for example, like Lunchly or like the Pokemon cookies. They're not really a scam. They're just overpriced. And I think that if you use the word scam, a scam is when you buy something and you don't get what you paid for.
I feel like the Pokemon thing about those cookies was way out of proportion. Like I thought that was unhinged, insane. I thought the reaction to that was crazy, in my opinion.
Fundamentally, right? Like you buy something, they don't give the thing to you, or you buy something and you get something else. Or you buy something under the pretense of one thing, and then what's advertised and what's given are 2 separate things, right? So that's what an actual scam is. And so having overpriced products...
I think what I saw from like Dr. Mike, he had a little bit of a nuanced take, I think, on the Lunchly situation, which is that he wishes that lunches for like kids in school should be healthier, and that the Lunchly packs were packed with sodium. There was way too much sodium for the package. But I think he was saying that this is an issue kind of broadly, and that it didn't make sense to single out Lunchly as like an outlier when prepackaged lunches for kids sort of broadly have just way too much salt in them.
Or having products that are stupid are not scams. They're just overpriced garbage. And so if you take the word, and again, I think that's what happens. People like to take the word and then expand it so they can have that emotional control over the conversation. You know, Pokemon cookies were a scam because there was one that claimed to be. if you want to make the health argument, the health benefit argument, I think that's a fair argument to make, and I think that's totally fine. But that's not the argument that most people were making, and so I'm really talking about the price of the cookies being a scam. I don't think something being overpriced makes it a scam. That's not how things work. So yeah, it's turning it into a buzzword. Exactly. Speaking of scams, the
I don't think I disagree with them here.
day before offers are offering dinners for them for $12K. I'm sure they are. I mean, those guys are trying whatever they can to make money. McDonald's is a scam compared to receiving compared to real received staff versus ad. Oh, Taco Bell is getting sued for that. So you're right about that. Woke has always been as a derogatory term for inauthentic
What is that music?
representation, but randoms co-opted it for anything they don't like. Yeah, I think that's true. But yeah, that's my
What is that music playing?
perspective. The entire subreddit when Ghost of Yotai was announced. I think that the problem is that, so the Ghost of Yotai, like we talked about this like for like an hour yesterday, so I don't want to waste a lot of time on it. But like, the problem is that we've seen a lot of franchises replace male lead characters with female lead characters, and oftentimes it feels like it's a disingenuous reason. So when you see it happening now, it's like, okay, well, if this has happened 10 other times, humans are programmed to recognize patterns. People
No, come on. Give me a break. Like, again, it's a totally different time frame. It's like 200 years after the events of Ghost of Tsushima. And my understanding is that the new Ghost of Yotai game, is that what it's called? It takes place on a totally different island. It's more than 300 years, and it's a totally new character. And more so, I don't know what he means when he says like having a female protagonist for disingenuous reasons. I don't know what that means. I don't think there's anything wrong with just saying consciously like, okay, you know, maybe in our last game we had a male protagonist, and so we feel like it's important to do a female protagonist in our sequel game or a new story or whatever. That's not disingenuous. There's nothing wrong with consciously making that decision. Like every character in every movie that you've ever watched, the character was cast with an actor through a conscious decision. Somebody consciously chose to cast Sigourney Weaver as Ripley. You know what I mean? Like there's no quote unquote organic or natural way to cast things. Like everyone decides, you know, everyone that's in charge of these projects decides we want this character and that character and this character. Like, I guess the only way that you could do it naturally is if you had like a D20 die and it had like a combination of like, so, you know, I have like straight white male and like queer black female and, you know, young trans East Asian person. And then you just throw the die and then that's how you decide how, and it's just totally RNG. Like that would be like the closest that I could think of to like naturally having characters that are, you know, quote unquote marginalized or whatever. But that's not how we work. I mean, that's not how any of these projects work. I don't know what he means. Like he's like, you know, well, maybe there was nothing wrong with them having a female protagonist in the Ghosts of Yotai game. But, you know, they've thrown women into too many projects before, and now people are just primed to be pissed off about it. It's like, no, you're getting pissed off about something silly. It's not the game's fault. There's nothing wrong with choosing a female protagonist for your follow-up game. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing whatsoever. It's not anybody else's fault besides your own if you have a bad reaction to that. If you see the reveal and she takes off her mask and it's a woman and you're like, oh God, here we go again. That's all you. That's all you. He's trying to blame like, you know, wokeness at large as like the reason.
People think it's happening again. Now, every time it's not the case, but when you have so many cases where it was the case, who cares? Well, they do, obviously. That's why they're talking about it. What do you mean, who cares? Like, what do you mean? They care. That's why they're talking about it. So, yeah, what do you mean, who cares? I mean, if enough people care, well, who cares? Like, obviously people care.
I don't know what the point of this video is. Because early on in the video, he made some like pretty good points about like people throw the term around too much, and he pointed to like Dom and who was the other character in Gears of War, and like if we were to apply these standards now, then it would apply to that game, and that would be woke, and that's stupid because that's not woke, I think was his implication. But now he's saying like, well, you know, I'm not saying if the Ghost of Yotai protagonist being a female is woke, but I understand why people think it's woke. Like, well, okay, it seems like I don't really think you've taken a real firm stance on this.
What do you mean? It only takes a few bad instances to ruin it for everyone. Yeah, and I think that that's what's happened with people. So that's why people were so upset about it. And again, the problem is that there's very clearly, like, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think, like, the best way to say it. There's very...
He's setting the groundwork for why he should be allowed to protest any diversity in gaming media going forward without being challenged because people are primed. I don't know if he's making that case for himself, but he seems to be excusing it in other people. It's like, well, it's not technically woke, but I understand why they think it's woke. It's like, well, it's silly, right?
Very clearly, like, a logical reason for why people think this way. And there's also a logical reason why that might be the wrong way of thinking.
Okay, hold on. I need to listen to that again.
A logical reason for... I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think, like, the best way to say it. There's very clearly, like, a logical reason for why people think this way. And there's also a logical reason why that might be the wrong way of thinking.
Can logic work both ways in this respect? I don't really know what that means.
But with the two groups of people that try to, like, argue this stuff, neither one of them want to acknowledge that the other side has a perspective that has any validity. So it's either like, oh, wow, you just want all the characters to be males and you hate women, or, oh, you want all the characters to be gay because you hate men. So, like, there's no, like, reasoned discussion. There's no middle ground. There's no trying to listen to another person's perspective.
I mean, I don't know if I'm the norm when it comes to games. I have no preference. I do not give a flying like, as long as the story is engaging and the world is rich with lore and interesting characters and unique visuals and there's fun game mechanics to work with and the gameplay loop is satisfying and it keeps me, you know, it makes me want to play the game more and more, then I don't care. If you make me play as like a trans character, like, I don't... Is it a cool story? Is it a cool character? Is it a satisfying arc? Cool. Like, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter to me at all.
It's just, I'm right and you're wrong, and
you don't even play video games? Bro. I constantly play games. What are you even talking about?
This is why. So yeah, it gets convoluted. Exactly. There's no giving ground. People don't...
I mean, I go back and I replay the same games over and over again, to be fair. Like, I just played Red Dead again the other day. I was playing Red Dead again for like a few weeks there. I played Cyberpunk for like the fourth time this year. I'm playing through Starfield again right now. You guys, that game is fun. Starfield is a fun game. You guys are objectively wrong about it.
Don't want to see anything.
I feel like he's trying to have his cake and eat it too. Because the reaction to the Ghosts of Yotei thing was just unhinged. Like, the people that were getting upset about that just was so stupid. It was so stupid. There was no reason from that trailer. There was no reason from that trailer to be upset at all. It's a totally different character. But I feel like he like lends credence to it. It was like, well, they've done all this woke stuff. He called Concord woke. What? Why was Concord woke? Was Concord woke literally just because it had like diverse characters? Anyways, yeah. Woke equals black. Woke equals queer. Woke equals woman. It literally is that simple for 99% of these people who complain about wokeness. It's that simple.